prove the resolution true, negate means to deny the truth, evidence of justice, doesn't require the recognition of animal rights, I meet my burden, AC. Start specifically on the theory, on the theory at the top. I'm saying that animals don't have rights that humans have. I'm saying that animals have no rights, they can't engage in discourse, so I meet his theory interpretation now off Donaldson 1. First, there's absolutely no warrant, there's no reason why we have this animal that we need to access through animal discourse. This is just a blatant assertion, it's absolutely not backed up. And second, there is no animal around us. The only animals around us are our dogs and cats that we already know. He doesn't explain why we don't actually know the animals around us. This is a crucial missing link now off Donaldson 2. This is non-unique. There's no reason why he's going to have discourse with the animal. You can call Donaldson 2 evidence specifically says that we need animal rights plus discourse with the animal. He only gives animal rights, so he doesn't achieve discourse with the animal. Don't allow him to extend this to try to turn back the NC now off Hooker 1. First, there's cross-apply the IR analysis. There's no way to choose between conflicting intuitions. Hooker makes a good point that we should try to look through intuitions. However, the only way to choose between intuitions is what my Habermas analysis is saying. We have to choose through intuitions through discourse. That's the only way to actually know whose intuitions are correct. Second, we shouldn't look to intuitions at all. This is exactly what my case is criticizing. Intuitions are a stupid way of looking at morality because there are so many different intuitions. It's impossible to compare between two competing intuitions without looking to some concrete system like contract. Third, or actually now off Hooker 2. Hooker 2 is totally disconnected from the rest of the case. Hooker 2 just says that our intuitions would say that we wouldn't want to kill an innocent person. His criterion is maximizing expected utility. This has nothing to do with killing an innocent person. I agree, most of our intuitions say we wouldn't want to kill an innocent person. However, his criterion is maximizing expected utility. Hooker doesn't warrant this argument until he talks about how we would all agree that we don't want to kill an innocent person. Furthermore, this is empirical claim without an empirical warrant. There's no reason why most people's intuitions would align with maximizing expected utility. This is just a complete assertion on Hooker's part. Remember, discourse is going to best solve for this because discourse allows us to actually see what people think. Now go specifically to the part about animal suffering. Actually, just go to extinction. First, there's no way there's extinction. His cards don't even get a link to extinction. His cards just say there's going to be an increased burden on the poor. There's no reason why it's actually going to cause extinction or cause everyone to go extinct. He needs to give you an actual link, an actual way that we're going to get to extinction. Second, there's no reason why animal rights is actually going to stop this image of animals. He just says that he just says that we're giving animal rights. However, there's no reason why we can give animal rights and still have a negative view of them and still view humans as higher than animals. For instance, some groups have rights, but that doesn't stop certain people from viewing them as less than other groups. Third, he doesn't solve this fact because he's just saying that he's fiating that that justice requires the recognition of animal rights. That's what he says across examination, so he can't solve this fact. Even if justice requires something, doesn't mean people are going to do it. People act unjustly all the time, so there's no reason he can solve for extinction. Now, I'll foster one. There's absolutely no reason why extinction is going to be relevant. This just says that in some ethical theories, extinction may be relevant. There's no warrant as to why extinction would be relevant under contract. So there's no reason there's no reason why we actually have to go find this true philosophy. This is just an assertion on Bostrom's part. This is just an appeal to intuition, which my IR card is going to take out. And second, it's impossible to actually find a true answer to philosophy. That's why we've been debating it for so long and can't actually find it. That's why we have to look to discourse and contracts, because that allows each person's own intuitions about philosophy and own ideas of philosophy to come together into something that everyone can agree to. Now, I'll Bostrom 2 first. There's no reason as to there's no reason as to why this matters under There's no reason as to why this matters under any evaluative calculus. There's no reason as to why we actually have to look to stopping extinction under this. It just says that even non-consequential will look to whatever. There's no warrant here. Second, you would have to prove absolute extinction in order for this to matter. You would have to have a 100% completely conceded link to extinction in order to prove extinction, in order to trigger these arguments. These arguments will not take out my case. He doesn't actually have a link into extinction. I didn't read anything else, so you have everything. Okay. And I read everything.
That's right. What does AIR say?
IR says that, hold on, let me just pull it up so I can explain it. Alright.
So ethical statements based on intuition are non-verifiable.
Yeah. Ethical,
because assumptions for ethical statements are ultimately based on
here's what it says.
So
we assume our intuitions are true.
So
I have intuitions about certain things, you have intuitions about certain things.
And that's why they're non-verifiable.
Right, I might have an
What's the impact of non-verifiability?
Okay, do you want me to explain the argument?
Well, I want to know the answer to that question.
Okay, the impact is that ethical theories based on intuitions are nonsensical.
Okay, so
I mean, I don't specifically make that impact.
Your argument is that your argument in Habermas, as it is on the AC, let me read it to you, is Ayer answers this, but the only way to use intuition is through discourse, and that Habermas said we use intuition through
I'm
discourse.
not saying we need to use intuition, but I'm saying if you do prove that intuition is important,
But you just said that your framework then relies on intuition.
Okay.
Moral discourse is the way we go about
my framework
voicing
takes out your meta-ethic, but it also links to your meta-ethic better than you do. That's the argument. So my framework takes out your meta-ethic.
Your Ayer argument says that my meta-ethic is non-verifiable and we should reject normal theories that rely on that. Yeah. But you link into that thing that should be rejected.
No, I don't just link into your meta-ethic.
Okay, so right now you're relying on winning your framework based off of the Malcolm evidence evidence and the epistemology stuff, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Malcolm says, okay, first of all, he says framework. What does he mean by framework?
Just a system of knowledge. The example I give under of two people with different systems, I might think that the way we get evidence and know truth is through divine revelation, and you might think it's through empirical facts. And there's
right, so that's none of the evidence, that's afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Malcolm doesn't really make any argument, he just sort of sets up my argument.
I don't understand how moral discourse solves this problem. All it means is that we can talk about it, and we both have different means by determining what epistemology is.
Yeah.
How do we then converge upon those epistemologies?
What?
How do we converge upon those epistemologies?
We don't necessarily converge. If we don't converge, then we just don't take action. Like, if we don't agree on something, then we don't, we don't do something to someone that we don't agree on. I say it very explicitly, the sufficient affirmative burden is to prove that animals can engage in moral discourse.
Okay, how do I do that?
You prove that animals can...
What's moral discourse?
Moral discourse is, I won't say talking about, because animals can't talk, communicating about what you want morally and what you want people to do.
So is any communication that might have normative weight sufficient? Does it have to be a communication that has normative weight under all ethical theories? For example, if I prove animals can adequately prove that they suffer, why would that not be moral discourse?
Proving that they suffer wouldn't be moral discourse, because they don't communicate to us that they don't want to suffer.
If I prove that they do communicate to us that they won't suffer, does that mean your framework?
If you prove that animals can communicate to us what they want in a moral setting, if you can prove that animals can communicate...
But it doesn't matter what moral setting.
I mean, I'd say it matters that it's the moral setting under the NC.
But what is... You just said that the act burden is to just prove that they have some sort of moral discourse, and that moral discourse can be any way of communication to humans, right?
I mean, they have to be able to engage in moral discourse. They have to be able to, express their opinions about morality.
So do they have to be able to use words?
I mean, not necessarily, but some animals can use words. There's evidence that says that. When I tried to make this theory argument against your Habermas and see all of your answers...
I know, but I was definitely lying. Okay, next. So your argument is that there's no link to extinction.
Yeah, that's three of my arguments. I basically make that argument three different ways.
And your argument is that we need to engage in moral discourse in order to determine a system of morality, right?
Sure. I don't make that argument explicitly, but that is the logical extent of my framework.
So, all I have to prove is that animals have opinions? Or that they can communicate Can they communicate something of normative weight? That's sufficient,
That they can communicate their normative feelings to us and discuss them with us.
Okay, so they have to be able to discuss it.
I mean, sure, but
I need to know because it affects our strategy.
Not in the sense of having a conversation about it, because I mean, some animals can use complex language, so that would be a term. If you said animals can use complex language, that would turn it.
Okay, I'll say that. So what are the arguments that why you should presume that?
The first is that the affirmative gets to speak first and last and frame the debate. The second is that a statement is more often false than true. And the third is that if justice doesn't require us to do anything and fails us by...
Wait, what's the first one? Have to speak first?
Yeah. The second is that a statement is more often false than true.
Okay, why?
Just by the nature of a statement. In order for a statement to be true, every part has to be true, but in order for a statement to be false, only one part has to be false. And then the third part is that negate is still the truth of, so if you don't prove proactively that justice requires something, that would mean I'm meeting my burden.